Like Gore Vidal, I never wanted to do anything else but go to the movies. Perhaps because Werner Herzog, the brilliant German director, was right when he said that movies can transmit ecstatic truth, a special truth full of deep human meaning. Well, my name is Jim, and these are the Academy Movie Junkies. This is our studio, and we're very proud of it. We like it. And in here, we're making a series of programs for the internet about movies. And I'll ask my on-air colleague, Brian, to explain a bit about the movies.
Thanks, Jim. Well, what it is we try to do here at Movie Junkies is we take a look at films dealing with drug addiction and alcoholism, films generally dealing with darker or heavier topics, and we try to relate them to different topics in recovery. And what Jim and I do, as well as all the junkies, is we go around campus and we talk to people here, at this treatment facility, Gatehouse Academy, about what their view is on the film or on that specific topic.
The most startling novel of the decade, brought to the screen with uncompromising frankness, pulling no punches, knowing full well the storm it would cause. For this is a relentless, terrifying tale of 5 lost days and nights, torn from a man's life, bearing his heart and soul. The Lost Weekend, starring Ray Milland in one of the great performances of motion picture history. And Jane Wyman as the girl who shared his desperate journey into fear.
You just happen to walk in on this. Now, if you know what's good for you, you'll turn around and walk out again, and walk fast, and don't turn back.
Down strange, forbidden byways he wandered in search of his soul. One woman loved him too much to let him lose it. Another wanted him enough to take him without it.
You do like me a little, don't you, honey?
Why, Natch, Gloria, Natch.
As we were discussing earlier, Brian, this business of The Lost Weekend, just how important a movie it was. As I said, I was about 10 or 11 years old, 1945 it was released, and I know I saw it because in those days, if you were a movie fan, which I was, I went to every movie, it doesn't matter if they were adult movies or not. My parents took me to them or I went by myself. I begged, it's only 11 cents, I could get a penny at, I could raise the money pretty quickly out in front. And I saw it, I remember seeing it, I remember all the fuss about it. I didn't really understand it much when I saw it, although I guess it's a bit ironic in that respect. But it was certainly, I remember winning an Academy Award. I remember people talking about it. But what I didn't know at the time was that it almost didn't get made. It almost didn't get released. Billy Wilder made a big pitch to Paramount to get it made. They didn't want to make it when it was when all of a sudden it was. But Billy Wilder was big, and he talked Ray Milland into doing it. Ray Milland didn't want to do it because he thought it wouldn't be good for his image. But then Billy Wilder promised him an Academy Award. He said, "If you do that, you're going to win the Academy Award as Best Actor." Then when they have in production and getting near the end, they were Paramount was feeling pressure from both, of all things, temperance groups who thinking it might encourage drinking. It's hard to believe, but that's true. And the beverage companies, the alcohol beverage companies, who didn't want to see it made. So Paramount weren't going to release it. Billy Wilder, because of the power he was as a director, had them agree to a limited release to see how it went. And of course, the rest is history. The critics went mad, and then it went into wide release and won all of the Academy Award as Best Picture, Best Director for Wilder, and Best Actor for Ray Milland. So there we go with that kind of little bit of cinematic history there. Now, you're a lot younger than I am, and you saw it recently. What was your...
Well, I mean, I've seen this movie multiple times over the past 5 years that I've been in recovery and here in Arizona. And, you know, I can definitely see why back in that time it was so risque and controversial, you know what I mean? Before, you know, they were putting this movie out back when, you know, people like us were sent, you know, either to jail or the loony bin, pretty much, you know what I mean? We were either, you know, it was before what they called deinstitutionalization. And it was either you were sent, you know, we either committed the crime or we were deemed a danger to ourselves or others and put in, you know, put in the paddy wagon and taken away. So I can definitely see why this movie was so difficult for them to make, because it does, for that time, deal with, in some graphic detail, you know, alcoholism, you know what I mean, and the desire to drink and, you know, being at the bottom, so to speak. And I mean, although he does at one point steal a purse, and he does, you know, act out in a way that many of us can relate to even now, you know, so many years later. I think that, you know, it's just a film that can ring true throughout the ages, whatever the addiction may be, whether it be alcoholism, you know, heroin, crack cocaine, any of that, you know what I mean? Because I know I watched this movie, and alcohol was not my primary, you know, drug of choice. Crack cocaine was, and I watched this, and I can definitely relate to it, like the scene where he takes the purse, or the scene where he's a little bit inebriated and he's talking about his writing.
It shrinks my liver, doesn't it, Ned? It pickles my kidneys, yes. But what does it do to my mind? It tosses the sandbags overboard so the balloon can soar. Suddenly I'm above the ordinary. I'm competent, supremely competent. I'm walking a tightrope over Niagara Falls. I'm one of the great ones. I'm Michelangelo molding the beard of Moses. I'm Van Gogh painting pure sunlight. I'm Horowitz playing the Emperor Concerto.
When I did my drug of choice, I felt like I was a superhero, so to speak. And not in any kind of like, I could take down the world sense, but like that I could, you know, hear people talking badly about me miles away, and you know what I mean? That, you know, the shadow people were my enemies and stuff like that, you know? So that's definitely, I mean, I definitely related a lot to this movie, and I think that even now in a generation where you get a lot of people who see black and white and they're immediately turned off, I think within the first 20 minutes of giving this film a chance, it can pull the modern viewer right in. So.
Well, I think so, and especially if you've got any experience. You see, before, the other thing that I learned about this is that, and in recollection, I think it's true, that in Hollywood there were character actors that specialized in playing comedic drunks. That's what they did. And many movies had the comedic drunk, you know. But drunks aren't funny. There's nothing funny about it, especially being a drunk, but there is nothing very funny about drunks. Occasionally you might find at the very beginning of the drunkenness a bit of humor, but it's not very often that it's funny. That's why I find Arthur interesting. I mean, Arthur was a very funny movie. I remember thinking at the time, though, this is something a little weird, but a little off about the fact. Now they're remaking Arthur. I notice in it, and it's opening on the 18th, and I notice in the trailers there's very little, if any, reference to booze. I'm wondering to what extent you can remake Arthur and not have him still a drunk. Will be interesting to see, I think. But one of the things that I saw that I remember vividly from my own experience is the bartender, played by Howard Da Silva, he had a great role, character actors, villains, and so on. He was a main character in this sort of Don Berman and talking to him and so on.
Weave me another.
Better take it easy.
Oh, don't
I
worry
remember
about
one
it.
day I was in a hurry for a meeting, and I was, of course, in terrible shape. And I ran to a bar. I double parked outside this bar, and I ran down the stairs because it was down. The bar was down. I ran in. I ordered a double vodka, on the not on the rocks. A double vodka straight, and no, it was on the rocks. So double vodka on the rocks. The bartender came over. He poured. He didn't say a thing. He poured the drink, and he put it right in front of me, and he said, "You show me a guy who runs in here at 12 noon and asks for a double vodka on the rocks, and I'll show you a guy on his way out." And he walked. That's all he said.
Right.
That's all he said. I'll never forget that. A month later, I was in treatment. I'm not saying that that's what did it, but the way he said that to me, never forgot it, and I remembered it again when I saw this bit. Yeah.
When the guy's selling you the alcohol is telling you might have a problem, I think you might have a problem. You know what I mean? When it's his livelihood, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know? That's
For
what
sure.
sticks out to me. But,
any other comments?
no, I just, this was a film that I do truly enjoy every time I view it.
You were mentioning something about the scene in Bellevue Hospital where he spent the night and he woke up with DTs and.
Well, what I was talking about, the reason that stuck out to me so much is, one of the people working in there is talking about the various clients that come through, the various patients that have come through, and he points out a stockbroker, and he's like, he's back every couple of weeks. He comes back in.
You're an alkie. You'll come back. They all do. Him, for instance, shows up every month just like the gas bill. And the one there with the glasses, another repeater. This is his 45th trip. Big executive in the advertising business. Lovely fellow. Been coming here since 1927.
That stuck out to me because that was me. You know what I mean? Going to, I don't want to name any places specifically in Boston, but there was one particular hospital that I frequented quite often. You know what I mean? I ended up back there. You know what I mean? I would get out and then I would be back, and you know what I mean? It'd be like, oh, hello, good to see you, Ann, which is one of the ladies that worked there, and you know what I mean? I became a regular, so to speak, and I don't know if it's something to be prideful about, or I think maybe I was in some sick way prideful about it back then, but that definitely did stick out to me, that part of it, you know what I mean, that part of the film.
Well, the other and last thing that I want to say about personal thing was is the attempted suicide at the end, and that is something that alcoholics do.
Give it to me. All right, now go. No fuss, please. Don't call in the neighbors. It won't do any good, I promise you.
I won't. You've made up your mind. But could you tell me why? Why?
Because it's best all around for everybody, for you, for Wick, and for me.
But that's not true. We love you, Wick.
All right, then, for me. Selfish again.
That's a sad final word, Don.
Look at it this way, Helen. This business is just a formality. Don Burnham is dead already.
My personal experience, I've had 3 that I know of, people commit suicide. And one of them I found myself. So it's a real dangerous thing when you get into alcoholic torpor, to think all is, either everything is all great or everything is so ungreat as you want to put an end to it. And I know in a couple of these instances when people said that so-and-so committed suicide, first thing I said, I bet you he was drunk, and it was. Well, in any event, there it is. It's The Lost Weekend. It's a great movie, and maybe we've gone on way too long about its history and all that, but I think that it's extremely important from a history of film making and so on, and of course there were some great artists, and again we have notes to supply to you should you wish them. Thanks.